A midnight vow, a shiveric stand against the void. It is late. The city outside is a chaotic hum, a mechanical beast that never sleeps, always hungry, always consuming. But here in the silence of my own mind, I am ordering myself to do the right thing. I am issuing a command to my own soul, live righteous. This is not a suggestion, it is an order. Why? Because God's fire burns in me, a truth I can't ignore. It is a heat that rises not from my flesh, but from the very marrow of my being. It is the divine spark that the Neoplatonists spoke of, the ember of the one that refuses to be extinguished by the cold dampness of the world. It is not just words, it is absolute faith, born in the late night prayers after Brooklyn's chaos. I remember the dust, the sirens, the smell of burning steel and fear. In that crucible, when the towers of man fell, I knelt and found something that did not fall. I found a certainty of his judgment and his promise of eternal life. This faith is my rebellion. I reject oblivion. The materialist says we are meat and electricity, destined for the worms. But I leap, as Kierkegaard would say, across the abyss of doubt. I trust his love for his creation. I trust the law etched in my heart. This law is not a shackle, it is a map. Plato illuminated it for me. He spoke of the form of the good, the sun of the intelligible world that gives light to all truth. My path is lit by this form. When I choose righteousness, I am not just following a rule. I am aligning myself with the fundamental architecture of reality. But seeing the path is not enough. Walking it requires iron. This is where Stoic discipline steadies me. The world is full of greed-choking dreams and hate-tearing families. It is a storm of passions. Epictetus taught me that while I cannot control the storm, I can control my footing. My vow is the anchor. It is the prohairesis, the reasoned choice, that stands firm when the temptation to hoard or run whispers. The Stoic conception of prohairesis is crucial here. It is not merely choice in the ordinary sense, but the faculty of moral choice, the capacity to judge and decide in accordance with nature and reason. When Epictetus distinguishes between what is up to us and what is not up to us, he places this moral faculty squarely in the former category. It is the one thing that remains ours, even when all external goods are stripped away. My vow, therefore, is not simply a promise made in a moment of emotional fervor. It is a rational commitment to align my will with the cosmic order, with what the Stoics called the Logos. This alignment requires a recognition of the moral physics of the universe, that virtue is its own reward, that external goods are indifference, that the only true good is the goodwill. Fire, I feel, is not merely subjective emotion. It is the recognition of objective moral truth, the kind that Plato argued was as real as mathematical truth. When I say God's fire burns in me, I am making a claim about the nature of reality, not merely about my psychological state. I am claiming that there exists a moral order that transcends human convention, that is not merely the product of evolution or social agreement, but is woven into the very fabric of being itself. This life demands virtues. It is not a passive drift, it is an active climb. I look at the assholes and vampires who run the hustles of this world, and I see men who have forgotten their duty. They treat others as tools. But Immanuel Kant handed me a sort of logic called the categorical imperative. He taught me that I must treat every soul as an end in itself, never as a means. This honors every soul. When I refuse to debase the marginalized, when I refuse to use the outcast as a scapegoat, I am upholding the dignity of the moral law. I am legislating for a kingdom of ends where every human being is a sacred vessel. Leibniz's harmony sings God's will. I see the pain, the despair drowning hope, and it would be easy to conclude that the universe is broken. But Leibniz argued for a pre-established harmony, a cosmic order where even the discord serves a greater resolution. My suffering, my anxiety, my rejection, these are not errors. They are the dark notes that make the divine song profound. They are the friction that allows me to gain traction. This is not my glory. It's his call, my chivalric oath. I have adopted the mantle of the knight not because I am noble by birth, but because I am noble by choice. Valor, duty, and honor back me. In a world of double talk and scams, the knight is the man who speaks the brutal truth. Truth rejects selfishness. Hoarding is a chain. Giving is the hammer that breaks it. I have seen evil's face. I have seen the controllers who manipulate the cattle class. I have seen the Pharisees in their country clubs who judge the sick. I won't bend to them. The late hour reflection hits hard, the fear rises, the doubt claws at my throat. But I defy it. Courage fires me to stand. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the judgment that something else is more important than fear. Piety anchors me. It is the cross of Christ, my core truth, unity. It is the uniting of creeds and love. It is the recognition that the drifter at my table is my brother, regardless of the name he calls God. The Kantian foundation of this moral stance cannot be overstated. The categorical imperative, to act only according to that maxim by which you can at the same time will, that it should become a universal law. provides a rational basis for moral action that transcends cultural relativism. When I refuse to use others as means, I am not merely expressing a personal preference or cultural bias. I am recognizing a universal moral truth that applies to all rational beings. This is why Kant believed that morality leads inevitably to the postulation of God's existence, because the moral law demands a perfect alignment of virtue and happiness that is not achieved in this world. My chivalric oath is thus not merely a romantic notion or a psychological coping mechanism. It is a rational response to the demands of practical reason. The knight's code, to protect the weak, to speak truth, to act with honor, is not arbitrary. It is derived from the recognition of the inherent dignity of every rational being. When I speak of evil's face, I am not indulging in melodrama. I am recognizing the reality of moral evil as a perversion of the rational will, as a choice to subordinate the moral law to self-interest. The controllers and Pharisees represent not merely social types but moral failures, failures to recognize the demands of the moral law, failures to treat others as ends in themselves. This philosophy must be lived, or it is dead ink. It lives at my table. I share a table with outcasts, vets, drifters, broken souls. To the self-righteous church, these are the spiritually sick who must be prohibited. To the corporate world, these are the useless eaters. But to me they are the guest of honor. Plates are mismatched, but hearts full. This is the Eucharist of the streets. It is the breaking of bread with the broken. Justice balances their burdens. When I listen to their stories, when I validate their pain, when I offer them respect instead of judgment, I am restoring the scales. Discipline tempers my fight, keeping me from becoming the monster I fight against. Wisdom guides my steps, ensuring my charity is not just a handout, but a hand up. I want this life because it's eternal. The mansion and $100,000 vehicle will rust. The ego hits will fade, but the act of offering my all inscribes me in saved hearts. Love is the only unconquerable might. It is the only thing that survives the grave. At this midnight hour, as the city sleeps and the war machine grinds on, I feel it. Righteousness defies darkness. I am a flame for the downtrodden. I am the hollow bone through which the Great Spirit blows. I am the goodwill shining in the void. This is why I fight, share, never forsake them. My vow is not a contract with the world. It is a covenant with the Absolute. It is God's creed, echoed in the chambers of a flawed but faithful heart. And it will echo beyond the grave, long after the assholes and controllers have been forgotten. I am Zerga, the outsider, the servant, the knight, and I stand ready. The metaphysics underlying this lived philosophy is profound. When I speak of sharing a table with outcasts, I am not merely describing a social practice. I am enacting a metaphysical truth that all beings participate in being, that all souls are emanations of the One. The Neoplatonic vision of reality as a hierarchical emanation from the one to the many provides a metaphysical foundation for this practice of radical inclusion. If all beings are emanations of the same divine source, then to exclude any being from my circle of concern is to deny the unity of being itself. The Eucharist of the streets is not merely a poetic metaphor. It is a recognition of the sacramental nature of reality, of the presence of the divine in the material, of the one in the many. When I break bread with the broken, I am participating in the cosmic liturgy, in the great dance of being that encompasses all things. The justice I seek to enact is not merely social justice, but cosmic justice, the restoration of right relation, the alignment of the human with the divine. This is why my vow is eternal, because it participates in the eternal, in the unchanging forms that Plato described, in the divine logos that the Stoics recognized as the rational principle governing the cosmos. I stand on the ground of stone that does not shift with the winds of fashion or the tides of public opinion. This ground is the bedrock of metaphysical truth, of the moral law, of the divine order that underlies the apparent chaos of the world. My vow is not a subjective commitment, but an objective recognition of what is, of the moral structure of reality, of the divine spark in every human being, of the unity that underlies all diversity. The midnight of my vow is not merely a time of day, but a metaphysical condition, the dark night of the soul, the via negativa, the apophatic journey to the divine. It is in this darkness that the light of the divine is most clearly seen, just as stars are most visible in the blackest night. My stand against the void is not merely psychological defiance, but metaphysical affirmation, the recognition that being triumphs over non-being, that the good triumphs over evil, that love triumphs over hatred. The void I stand against is not merely social injustice or personal suffering, but the metaphysical threat of nihilism, the denial of meaning, the reduction of the human to the material. My chivalric stand is thus not merely a personal choice, but a participation in the cosmic drama, in the great battle between being and non-being, between the form of the good and the privation that is evil. When I say I am Zerga, the outsider, the servant, the knight, I am not merely adopting a persona. I am recognizing my place in this cosmic drama, my role in the great chain of being. I am the outsider because I stand outside the conventional wisdom of the world, the servant because I recognize my dependence on the divine, the knight because I have taken up the sword of truth in defense of the good. And I stand ready, not merely psychologically prepared, but metaphysically aligned with the truth of being, with the moral law, with the divine order that sustains all things. This readiness is not a state of tension, but a state of rest, the rest that comes from alignment with truth, from participation in being, from communion with the divine. It is the peace that passes understanding, the still point in the turning world, the silence at the heart of the storm. Zerga in synthesis with the philosophers.